actually thought about was make it personalizable. One of the things we thought one of the most basic addition is just a login flow. So obviously having users being able to log into the page and then keep track of their progress. So for instance, if I've already completed some specific chapters about the learning material, then I should be able to just log in and keep going from where I left off. So now, as you see, this is mostly based on the existing online platform. However, we were thinking of a more generic approach. So for instance, for adults, it would be good to have some sort of initial quiz to establish a baseline. And then starting from that baseline, the content will be tailored to their level of knowledge. Another sort of personalizable feedback feature that we thought about is so as Nikhil mentioned, the main feature would be the gamified approach for the interactive sessions, for the decision-making sessions. As you would see later in the demo, these are supposed to be interactive sessions in a way that they also provide feedback. So what we thought is, well, it would be nice to track their progress in these interactive quizzes, being able to go back to the statistics, potentially also tailor the feedback they can receive based on how they perform in these quizzes. And that's one of the features that we also thought about. So we'll now pass over to Laurie, who will give you a demo of the tool we implemented.
So what have we implemented other than ripping off FTFLIC's website? We kind of went for the fun part, I'll be honest. So we've just picked one of the decision-making games, one of the slightly more involved flows. So we've chosen Year 11 Session 6, the investing game. Let's jump straight into it. I'm just going to preface this with none of us are designers. So if you use your imagination and pretend it looks nice, that would be fantastic. Right, so this is our basically login portal for the app. This is a fully working Python backend and a React front end. I'm going to set up a game for 3 users. Let's go for 3 rounds. And let's say we've got 4.5K monthly income. We're doing quite well. The idea behind this page is we're going to add more configs in to basically extend the functionality of the game. You can maybe add some parameters for difficulty levels or range of interest rates that might happen. We'll see what that means in 1 second. So let me create that session. We've got a confirmation and I'll hop into a user account. This is Laurie. Done. So I'm in a lobby, sorry. We can see Nikhil's already joined and hopefully Sergio will be on his way in. This is fully multiplayer, by the way. This is all networked and serving sockets and such. Cool. Okay, so this is what we got. 4.5K monthly income. At the moment, we're just simulating your spend being 50% of your total income. This was taken from the FTFLIC sites. The rough idea being that 50, 20, 30 split. Again, the idea will be to make this configurable perhaps one day and maybe even have some sort of quality of life metric that is affected by how much your personal spending is. But let's go and fill out a round. So I need to spend 200 to 50. Let's put 1100 in there. Let's go for a bit of crypto. And we've got 650 left. I'll be sensible and stick it in bonds. Okay, so that's my account all set up. You see where the ready button is enabled. Hit that. The other guys have already submitted their picks. So we get a summary of the previous rounds. We can see that Sergio is in the lead by a tiny margin. Nikhil has unfortunately made some poor investment decisions. There is a newsfeed that will pop up, basically randomly generating events and tweaking these balances by kind of larger percentages than they would usually be. Still in fair range of this percentage listed down here. So we can see bonds have had a good month. Crypto's gone. I imagine that's where Nikhil put his money. ETFs, that number's backwards, but you get the idea. So let's run through another couple of these. We've now got our liquid savings, which is any account that is withdrawable, so not including balances from ISAs and bonds, things like that. You can see 1188 plus 300 is this 1400 total spend we can rebalance our accounts with, plus the extra 2250. Tooltips, very good idea. Thank you, Sergio. So basically to enable this a little bit more intelligently, we are trying to plug in as much information at every step of the stage along the way. So at the moment, these are copy pasted from Investopedia, but obviously this will be FTFLIC curated content and configuration. So we've got kind of rough descriptions of most of the asset classes to kind of, helping them learn how these different markets might behave and the advantages and risks involved. So let me just stick 1502 in here. Missed a point. Okay, ready again. Quite a month. I'm breaking into the lead.
Wow.
Nickels made a comeback, and Microsoft have done very well this month. And let's just stick in one last one. 1401. Just wait for the other guys to finish up. Game over. I managed to come out in the lead in that one somehow, and that's the gist of it. Hopefully, you can look past the front end and see the inspiration behind it. But thank you very much for listening. Any questions?
No, I think it's very interesting. What do you see as the sort of main challenges for getting this adopted by people? What's going to stop people wanting to use it?
I'd say number one, how it looks. And also,
I was going with the caveat that you're not designers, which is pretty self-evident, but
I think when we designed this game, the idea that we had behind it was that it was to gamify each of the sessions. So this was an example of one of the sort of gamified approach that could be taken, that could be sort of more entertaining for learners. But the main idea behind it would be to have on the learning platform the decision making bit to be gamified in this style. Well, not in this design, but in this sort of having this sort of idea for all the interactive sessions, essentially.
So the idea is a class doing this year 11 course at the end of their course would all get together in the same room and be able to kind of compete against each other and have a little bit more competition going on, and anyone doing self-guided learning at home as well.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, it's Dave here. So I really like the idea, like the gamification, and I like the sort of, do it in the group so you get that little bit of interest and sort of, how you getting on, how did you buy that sort of thing. So go then forward to practicality again and go sort of what data do you need, and how big does that data set need to be to really help power some of the scenarios that sit behind the results after you've made your choices. So have you thought about that and how much of an overhead that might be?
We went down a bit of a rabbit hole of things to add to this game. There's been a few ideas thrown around Sergio mentioned establishing this baseline earlier. If we can add some sort of difficulty parameter to this, set it right to the bottom, there's maybe 2 account types just working more on these higher level ones. So calculating interest or budgeting for something, just managing to save over a period, whacking the complexity all the way up to having, complex ETF interactions and actual stock movements and stuff. Basically, whatever parameters we want to add to. I mean, we put this together fairly quickly. Obviously, the design side is lacking, but I think everything has been made quite configurable and it's come together quite quickly. Yeah,
in fact, I think the idea behind having the admin portal is that, as I mentioned, we would like the main idea is to gamify each of the interactive sessions. However, we don't have, we always have to remember that interactive sessions are still based on the material they have supposedly learned previously. So the gamified version of the interactive session should still expand upon whatever they've learned previously. And the admin portal would give that sort of flexibility to the teachers to tailor the game to whatever material they want to expand upon, essentially.
Thank you.
I have a question. Would you so you're saying you would make the game tailorable, customizable by the teacher using the game in the classroom? Am I understanding it correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So you would, for instance, as a teacher, be able to, rack up the difficulty on the crypto investment to discourage your students from dumping all their cash into crypto?
Exactly, yeah. That's why we made
very early on.
Yeah, I guess it's also they can simulate different scenarios. So maybe they could run the game more than once with different settings and explain what changed, why why the results were different and so on, to give a different perspective on what could be happening in the real world.
I really like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beck Engineers. And now we've got 2 more teams to go. So next one up is the Waifs and Strays.
Hello. Let me do some sharing. Share. Awesome. Can everyone see this? Good?
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, so our very short presentation. Oh, by the way, also not designers. So yeah, use your imagination. We came up with a concept pretty early on of trying to make real world information more accessible to people learning about financial concepts and principles and things like that. So we came up with an idea of running a using generative AI to help people learn about concepts within the news and within on the things like the Financial Times and stuff like that. But we went and talked to the FTFLIC people, and we quickly found out that it's kind of more a case of getting their material in front of the right people, driving the right people to the right content. So we kind of took 2 ideas and we pushed them together, and we were kind of working on an idea of augmenting the FTFLIC website and web material with pluggable back-end things, so that we could create things that would assist people with learning about financial concepts, but also drive them towards the right content. So that was our concept. Our concept was low friction path to the relevant content and material, integrating and augmenting the existing FTFLIC website. So not creating a brand new app or anything like that, but making things that we could plug in and provide extra material and augment the content that was already there. We wanted to enable the representation of real world news and content, and make it so that we could have alongside concepts that you've learned, so you can relate it back to real world news articles and things like that. And we wanted to leverage the generative AI to provide learners with a knowledge sidekick to help explain technical concepts. Somehow my slides got clipped. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into demos and things. As I say, we spent a lot of time working on our back-end stuff so that we could create the pluggable things to make new content available inside of the FTFLIC website. So we decided that what we wanted to do was we wanted to have a very low friction onboarding, that we could generate a quick profile of a learner, so that we could generate relevant content. And our idea was we could have the FTFLIC team tagging and making their content available to be indexed and be able to be sort of tagged against various profiles. So when we go through our website, we pick an age range, we pick some various other things that we can choose, and then once we get to the bottom, this creates a profile, and then this would use the tagging engine, which we didn't create because we focused on another thing, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it would drop you in the right place on the right part of the website, showing you the content or lessons or plans that you want that are relevant to you. Then when you go in here, you get into a lesson, and we're presenting. This is the piece we spent our time working on, was presenting news which relates to the particular lesson, or real world information that relates to a particular lesson that people can click into and go further afield. We built an API in the background to plug this in. We didn't have the time to actually wire it up properly to the front end, but I can demo the AI, the back end. We spent some time building a back end that retrieves headlines, for example. As you can see here, I can retrieve a bunch of headlines from the news service. We use generative AI to be able to simplify concepts in the news. So we've got an API that does a simplification using using ChatGPT or OpenAI, sorry. So this is going to simplify the concept of a stock market. So you're a bit difficult to read, I apologize. So you can see here, this simplifies the concept of a stock market to people. And what the concept is that you'll be able to click on items in here and request a simplification. We also realized that people perhaps may not be English speakers. So we implemented translation. So this is just an example of one of those stories translated into German. We did that on the fly just in case people want to actually, you know, they're not native English speakers and they wanted to see things in other languages. We also did, that was why Chrome was in there. We also did text to speech so that you can get your explanation simplified and then spoken to you. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but anyway, it will generate, there's a text to speech endpoint that will generate the news article or the simplified article and read it back to you. So that was, and the concept of the news, the news sidekick that we came up with looks a bit like this. So this is kind of our, this is actually working example. It's a horrible design, but you know, so you can pick a concept within a news article. These are just news articles that we dumped off a news API service. So for example, if I highlight EBITDA and click explain, it runs off to ChatGPT and gives you an explanation of what EBITDA is. And this works for anything. You can highlight whatever you like, the S&P 500, for example, explain. And the concept is that you don't need to get out of your content in order to see the explanation. You can do it in your content. You just click explain and away you go. You can read the article and come back with explanations for complicated concepts that might be in the thing. And what we were hoping to do was relate this back to the learning so that we could have news articles come back that are related to a particular lesson, and then you can have the explain function to explain things a bit more in depth. The other concept that we didn't have time to show here, but we also had the concept that you could highlight whole chunks of text and simplify it. So we actually have I showed you, we had that simplified endpoint on our API so that you can send a whole bunch of text and ask, using some prompts that we've engineers in the background, it will simplify a complete news article down to whatever your the characteristics of the profile that we're collecting. Trying to think, yeah, that's about it really. We as I say, we kicked around a whole bunch of ideas and we implemented a whole lot of stuff, and we tried to be quite ambitious, and unfortunately we didn't get it all linked up to where we wanted it to be linked up in here, but we got all the bits ready and we've got all of the engineering is done. It's just a matter of gluing it all together in our thing. And also I think that other essential piece of the concept would be to have that tagging mechanism whereby we could relate a profile to a bunch of content or sets of content that are meaningful to people, and then we can also use the same tags to bring back the relevant content in our news section or our information section over here. That's about it. Hopefully that made some sense. It wasn't too rambling. Questions?
Just a quick question from me.
Yep.
So you said something along the lines of using generative AI, right? So
yep.
How do you intend to cater for or guard against bias and unintended outputs?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, we hadn't actually thought of that, so that's a really good question. I mean, yeah, well, that's not true. Actually, I did think about that a little bit, because in one of the responses I got back from the chat, it was somewhat inappropriate. So yeah, I think what we would do is we would take a cautious approach and make sure that we can, you know, the calls to the API is only generating content that is deemed acceptable, and that we have a filter in before we present it back to the user. And also, I think making sure that the prompts and the content that we're asking for is asked for in a way that makes sense for the profile that we're asking for, that we've got looking at the website. So yeah, but that's a really good point. We didn't really consider any of that. We kind of just relied on the API to give us back sane output at the moment.
Thank you.
I have a question. I really like the concept of the knowledge sidekick. Do you think you would be able to personalize that further, or the output of that knowledge sidekick, based on a user's learning level?
That was
So
the
the-
idea. Yeah, that was the idea. We were, I think we were probably a little bit too ambitious with our ideas, and we kind of went down a lot of tried to do a lot of things. And I think what we probably should have done is work a little bit on an example way of turning one of those profiles into an example of a persona, and then tailoring, trying to tailor more the data that we get back from things like this. Yeah. But yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't. We've got all the sort of back end engineering and glue in there to do it.
Yeah, and Andrew, just add one thing, James, sorry. The whole thing was based on the personalization of the user. So the set of questions by the age, based on your demographics and all of that, the content which is curated by the FTFLIC users will be provided to the users, and also the news content is sort of weightage based curated content. It won't be like one set of news content for everyone. It's sort the idea was that we filter it based on the age groups and the demographics and all of that.
Yeah, we also had some ideas about sort of gamifying things or creating content around, relevant for children, relevant for the age groups that we were going to target. But yeah, we just didn't have time to get into the meat and potatoes of the classification engine. But yeah.
Because of time, do you want to move on?
Yeah, I think we do.
Thank you, guys. I
One
really
last one.
liked
Thank
it,
you so
but I won't
much.
ask my question. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Our lone wolf warrior.
Hey,
Are you with
folks.
us?
I am
No.
indeed. Hopefully you can see my camera.
Now we can.
Hopefully you can see the screen as well. That would be
Now we
great if you
can.
can. Hey, fantastic. Things are going well. Okay. I'll jump straight into it because obviously time is pressing on. The first thing I wanted to work out was what's the problem I'm trying to solve. Without knowing that, everything else is pointless, really. That's not meant to be me. He has far too much hair. So let's look at an example user journey to answer the question, what problem am I trying to solve? This is Doris. In this cost of living crisis, Doris is pretty worried that fairly soon she's going to face issues paying her bills. And a neighbour has told her about a new website backed by the Financial Times that offers courses and content aimed at helping people master their finances. So Doris visits the website. The first thing she's presented with is a big banner asking her to donate. Now, obviously, this isn't going to happen because she can only just afford to feed Cat, Horace. And there are two other major areas on the page. A video titled 4 Things Women Need to Know About Love and Money, which she doesn't want to watch as her husband Boris has recently died, and some copy which basically tells her about the mission statements, about FTFLIC and so on. But at no point is there anything obvious call to action offering information that might help her pay her bills. But Doris isn't a total technophobe. She uses eBay often enough to know that many websites offer navigation. So she takes a look at the top of the page and to try and find the advice she wants. And she spots an item marked Learning Hub that she notices a search icon as well. So she spotted all the usual things. Hovering over the Learning Hub item, she discounts immediately curriculum because it sounds like something for school teachers, and instead tries the core modules link. The first thing she's presented with is a pop-up asking her for her work email and questions about why she wants to use this information. As someone who's recently lost her job, she doesn't have a work email, and seeing the only home option as a parenting role, she's confused and frustrated because she and Boris never had children. Her neighbour had told her this website would have had information to help her out, and she's hoping it did. Undeterred, she remembers the search icon. So she goes back to the home page, she clicks search, and she types in the words help paying bills, presses enter, and she gets a no results found title with a confusing message telling her the page she requested couldn't be found. Well, she thinks, well, surely the search results page is a page. But she doesn't give up. Still determined to find what she wants, she updates her search criteria to just the word bills and presses enter, and she has some success. However, her joy is soon short-lived. The first result is a page entitled Dreams Time Photo Credits, which doesn't seem to contain the word bills anywhere. Oh, my screen has stopped updating. There we go. It doesn't contain the word bills anywhere. And the second is a page entitled Financial Literacy in the FT, which is a page containing about 140 articles. And it's so big, the screenshot app just gave up and couldn't grab all of it. So from search results, yeah, it didn't go so well for her. But she looks at the page, Financial Literacy News. This is the one with many search results. The first page, and she pages down to the second page, and the third page, and the fourth page. And finally, at the top of the fifth page, she finds an article titled Hacking Your Bills, which hopefully is what she wants. Doris thinks this is a lot harder than it should have been, but she's happy because she's found a resource to help her out. And this answers the question, what problem am I trying to solve? And it's making your great content easy to find. Looking around the FLIC website, it's pretty clear that it was hard to find relevant things quickly. And if people can't find relevant things quickly, they're unlikely to use your service or recommend you to others. And it devalues all the good work you're doing. Let's take a closer look at those search results. The photos page came in the search results because it contained the word bill in the web address of an image that's been used on your website. We know why the sorry, not too many pages. We know why the second page was shown, because deep down, 5 pages down, there was a link to an article about bills. But as Doris said, there has to be an easier way. And there are many ways to make information accessible. You could have an AI chatbot, which are great with recent advances in technology, but people distrust them, and some are being misrepresented as humans, which leads people to lose confidence in them. You could have a mobile app or website. These are great because people can access your content on the go, and they're great because one of your target demographics is young people, and smartphones are ubiquitous. Every teenager's got one. But you do risk alienating older people like Doris, who might not be tech savvy or able to afford or use a smartphone. You could use phone lines, which are really accessible to people who aren't tech savvy, but often you have a long wait and they're really expensive to run. You could have a search feature, which we've seen already, and they're easy to add to desktop and mobile websites. And if they're well written, any new content is automatically added to the search results. But if they're poorly written, people will lose confidence in them. And I've linked to an example of a search page which returns the same 10,000 results no matter what query you use on the search. And the last option is a wizard style interface. So it asks questions and sort of gradually, using a divide and conquer algorithm, can help you find what you want. But if the content is static, so not in a WordPress database, for example, you would need to manually update your wizard in order to get new content. So moving on. There we go. So what's a feasible solution? It's clear the search feature on your site at the moment isn't working as well as it could be, and nor is it the first thing someone is likely to see when they visit your site. How can we improve this? So without making any drastic changes, like removing your branding or removing the donate banner, I've added a more instant and obvious search feature. So let's give Doris's query a spin on the new system. Hopefully you can see, hopefully you can see this web browser. I'll assume you can. So you've got the same branding that you had on your website, the same mastering your money, the same nav, everything's the same. It's just the donate button has moved, and that's moved further down. But here above the page fold, you've got a new section offering to give help that's relevant to you. And if we look further down, then you have your existing donate button, which goes off to the donate page and a bit more copy and so on, and plus the rest of the content. So none of that's changed. But let's take a look at Doris's query. So she asked for help paying bills. And we can see that the very first item that appears in help paying bills is the exact article she found 5 pages down after 2 different searches. This search result isn't fudged just because I knew that was what I was searching for. It's actually using an algorithm to try and find the content that's relevant. Let's try a different search. There we go. Salary. There we go. Ask for a pay rise, how to get one. These sort of relevant content, they're appearing within the first, page of